You're listening to the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.
So we're in these issues of conditional divorce. We've always said that the Mishnah is not interested in classic cases, it's only interested in edge cases. So we've been through the cases of appointing an agent and what are the limits and boundaries of agency. And now then the Mishnah gets into conditionality. So what are the limits and boundaries of conditionality and how does that work? And we've said, by the way, that these issues of agency and conditionality are revisited in the Mishnah in the tractate of Kiddushin. So somehow Kiddushin deals with betrothal, Gittin with divorce. So somehow these concepts of conditionality and agency, which are very strong, very strong in both tractates, And we talked about time limited conditions. So, for example, if someone gives a get that is only effective after maybe it's effective after he dies, but it takes effect retroactively from the time it's given. Well, okay, what's the status of the wife during that period? Is she divorced or not? And then in the middle of the seventh chapter, the Mishnah goes into other kinds of conditions, but we'll see that there are still issues of time. So to start off with, he says, and this is a classic problem that we're familiar with today. Sorry, let's jump back to one Mishnah. Let's jump back to the fifth Mishnah. Here's your get. Here's your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz. So this is 200 zuz. Of course, we know that is the standard sum of the ketubah. So he's saying, look, you'll be divorced, but on the condition effectively that I don't have to give you the ketubah. That this sum is going to cancel out the sum of the ketubah. And she has to accept, she'd have to accept the condition. She'd have to accept a condition. But if she accepts the condition, if she accepts a condition, she's divorced and she shall give. He can't randomly divorce her without paying her ketubah on this basis. And we haven't given a time limit for when she has to pay him. She's divorced. What if he says, Almanat shetitnili mikan ve'ad shloshim yom? What if he names a time limit? I'm going to divorce you on condition that you give me the 200 zuz within 30 days from now. So there is a time limit. Natnula b'toch shloshim yom. If she gave it to him within 30 days, so if she fulfilled the condition, Mugureshet, she's divorced. Ve'imla ve'na Mugureshet, but if not, she's not divorced. So her status, when she receives this document, her status is going to be indeterminate until she actually hands over the money. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said, and he brings a story now. The halacha, by the way, doesn't go according to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. And the Gemara thinks that one of the voices in this story is missing. The voice of anyway, well, let's read the story and we'll see who's missing. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Ma'aseh b'Tzidon be'echad she'amar li'ishto. It happened in Sidon, and a man said to his wife, Harei zegitech almanat shetitni li istaliti. Here's your get on the condition that you give me my robe, i.e., you hand over to me a garment, and I'm going to give you a get. Ve'avda istaliti, and the garment was lost. So in this case, the condition can't ever be fulfilled. The garment's gone. It's gone. So what are we going to do? And the halacha, by the way, is that the The halacha is, by the way, that the get is invalid. She has not received a valid get because the condition can't be fulfilled. But Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to quote an opinion from the sages. Amru Chachamim, the sages said, the halacha doesn't go this way. Amru Chachamim chiten lo et dameha. The sages said she should give him its value, i.e., she should make a monetary compensation. And in a civil case, that might be normal if you're bound to hand over a piece of a garment, a piece of fabric, and you can't hand it over. You might think it's normal to hand over its value in money. But in terms of the conditionality of the bill of divorce, it seems that it doesn't work. The halacha doesn't go with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. And similarly, in the second Mishnah we're going to look at today, a mirror image Mishnah. Harezi getech al manat sheteshamshir abba ve'al manat shetaniki et bani. I give you your get on condition that you look after my father. Okay, we can recognize these conditions from today. On condition you look after my father, or on condition you nurse my child. And again, he hasn't mentioned a time limit. Seems like this could happen at any point. And the Mishnah asks, V'chama hi menikato, and how long must she nurse? And the answer comes back 2 years. The Gemara, by the way, has the view she only has to nurse him for a day. She only has to nurse him momentarily, but has to do it within that period of 2 years, because children only need breast milk in the view of the Gemara, they need breast milk for 2 years. So the view of the Gemara is that at some point in that 2 years, she needs to nurse him. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shmonasa Chodesh. Rabbi Judah says 18 months. But the principle is that there is some time limit implied. Meta ben or shemeta av. Maybe the child died or the father died before she had a chance to nurse him or to take care of him. And again, it is more common in the time of the Mishnah than it is today. Hareze get. The condition seems to the get seems to be valid. The get seems to be valid if she can't fulfill the condition because of something out of her control. Al manat sheteshamshi et abba shetei shanim ve'al manat sheteniki et b'ni shtei shanim. Maybe he makes a firm time prescription on the condition. You can see this Mishnah is parallel to the Mishnah we just looked at. So he says, on condition you look after my father for 2 years, or on condition you nurse my child for 2 years. Metabe or Shamarav, efshi shetsamsheni. Maybe the child dies, or the father says, look, I don't want you to look after me. I don't want you to look after me. Even though, not with complaints. He just doesn't want it. He just doesn't want it. A nor get. The get doesn't work. If he specified a clear condition and she hasn't fulfilled it, the get doesn't work. And again, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is going to disagree. The halacha is not going to go according to him. But he disagrees just as he did in the previous Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer kazeh get. He says this is a get. Klal amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel kol akava she'ena mimena harei zeh get. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says a general rule, and the halacha doesn't go according to him, that whenever the obstacle doesn't come up on her side, this is a valid get. So that's his principle, and we're not necessarily going to agree with him, but we record his principle even though we don't agree with it.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.